What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Raider World. So in today's video, we have Tab Performance 2-in-2 Fully Shielded Headpipe. So Tab Performance got their start in 2004 by Todd Buchanan and two brothers, Justin and Casey Flans. Their passion for sound and performance has produced some of the best aftermarket motorcycle exhausts and accessories ever since. Getting to know their customers, customizing their bikes to fit their own personal style, and truly valuing their opinion is why they have continued to evolve and improve. After launching the first exhaust for the V-Rod, Tab has expanded their product line to cover all major Harley-Davidson and Indian platforms, delivering sound and performance that you've all come to expect and love. All made here in the USA. So here we have the 2017 and up 2-in-2 Harley Touring Fully Shielded Headpipe. Available in black or chrome, these headers will snug right up to the bike, following the stock line, no need for spacers. These headers offer a full round crossover for maximum flow and performance and can be used with any stock Fitment slip-on mufflers. Now these do have an appearance of a true dual system, but they do have an internal chamber or H-pipe, so they're not truly independent of each other. This front and rear balancing chamber has been designed to maximize balance and flow to ensure you are left with a maximum amount of torque and horsepower. These headers are also designed with 18 and 12mm O2 sensor bungs that are easily accessible for on-bike tuning. Made from a high-quality chrome-plated steel, this kit includes new heat shields with your option in either chrome or black, which is good if you're trying to change up the color scheme on your bike. New heat shield clamps, exhaust port gasket replacements, 18 and 12mm bung plugs with copper crush washers, and all your mounting hardware. I'll put a link down in the description below for Tab Performance's video on the differences between the 1-in-2 and the 2-in-2 exhaust system. Alright guys, so this should be a simple install, so let's get it going. For this install, I used a couple size ratchets with a pass-through ratchet, a 6-inch extension, a 3-inch extension, 14mm wrench, 7/16 wrench, snap ring pliers, a 3/16 Allen, flathead screwdriver, a picking tool, 1/2-inch, 9/16 and 5/8 deep sockets. Also use a smaller 1/2-inch socket. These are 1/2-inch and 7/16 pass-through sockets, and a 5/16 socket. Here I have a 10mm, 5/16, 1/4-inch and 3/16 hex bits. I also use blue Loctite and some anti-seize. So to prep for this install, I'm going to remove both saddlebags, side covers, and the right side driver floorboard. From here, I'll just loosen up this one bolt for the floorboard bracket so I can swing it away from the pipe. And I'm using a 5/16 hex bit with an extension. So here I have Tab Performance BAM stick slip-on mufflers with the zombie baffles installed. If you want to know more about these, go ahead and click this link right up here. From here, I'm going to remove both mufflers on each side. You do have a 5/8 or 15mm nut on the right side and a 9/16 nut on the left side. And these two are a 1/2-inch. So you only have to loosen up this nut, you don't have to remove it completely. Now I'll remove these two bolts, and these are a 1/2-inch. So I'll just thread these back in so I'm not losing them. From here, I'll just work these off. So like I said, for the left side, you do have a 9/16 nut. Same thing with these bolts, I'm using a 1/2-inch socket. So now I'll remove the stock heat shields. So the stock heat shields are just held on by these clamps, and you can use a flathead screwdriver. Now you can also use a 5/16 to loosen up the clamps. So now I'll remove the stock cross-under and support clamp. For the exhaust clamp, you use a 9/16 socket, and for the support clamp, you use a 1/2 inch. So you can remove and discard this hanging bracket because Tab Performance does provide you with a new bracket, but you will keep these mounting bolts. To remove these two bolts, I am using a 3/16 hex bit. So I'll just thread these back into here so I don't lose them. Now I can remove and discard the nut holding on the head pipe support bracket. And for this nut, I'm using a 1/2 inch deep socket. So now I'll loosen up the 4 exhaust port nuts just far enough to access the O2 sensors. Because I have the fairing spoiler kit, I'm going to use a 1/2 inch pass-through socket. So I'm using a 14mm wrench to remove the O2 sensors. So when you're removing these O2 sensors, just make sure you're turning clockwise. Now I can finish removing the exhaust port nuts and remove the header. So you will reuse these stock nuts. So here we have the stock head pipe and the Tab Performance head pipe. We are going to reuse the exhaust port flanges and the retaining rings. Here I'm using a pair of snap ring pliers. They do have a specific set of pliers for these, but you can also use a screwdriver. When reinstalling your flange, just make sure you have this side towards the bike. So the retaining ring is going to sit right in here. So you do have 2 sets of bungs. You have a 12mm and an 18mm. If you're reusing your stock, you just use your 12s, and then you can use your provided 18mm bung plug to plug these up. So here you have your 18mm bung plug and your copper crush washer. You just place that on there like that, and I'll also use some anti-seize. To install these bung plugs, I am using a 10mm hex bit. So Tab does put this note on here that your crossover must be installed before the head pipe. So now I'm going to install the cross under. I am going to reuse the stock bolts. Again, I'm using a 3/16 hex bit. And I'm using blue Loctite. So I have these loosely tightened down until I get everything set into place. Before I start installing anything else, I'm going to throw this clamp on, and I'm going to have this nut facing towards the rear. Now I'll remove the transmission side cover so I can install the L bracket. So to remove the side cover, you have these 2 bolts here, and they're a 3/16 hex bit. So to remove these 2 bolts, I am using a 1/4 inch hex bit. For these, I'm also using blue Loctite. So from here, I'll reinstall the transmission side cover, and I'm also using blue Loctite. So now I'll remove the old gaskets. They might come out in one piece, or they might come out in several. Just make sure you're getting it all out of there. So here I have the new gasket. When you're installing these, you want the beveled side out. So now I'll install the headers. I'll loosely put on these flange nuts so I can get the O2 sensors in and get everything else lined up. So for these O2 sensors, I'll also apply anti-seize. So if you didn't completely remove your O2 sensors, you could twist them a little bit just to get them to thread in. So now I can slip the exit in of the front head pipe into the cross under. So now I'll secure this P-clamp to that L bracket that I installed underneath the transmission side cover. So you have your bolt and your nut. Your bolt's going to sit up top and your nut's going to be on the bottom. So I'll just use a tool to push down that bolt and compress the clamp so I can secure the nut. So now I'll slide both mufflers onto the header pipes. And I'll reinstall my rear support bracket bolts. So before you tighten your mufflers down, just make sure they're even on both sides. Now that I have everything lined up, I'll go ahead and tighten it down. Again, for these flange nuts, it's a 1/2" socket and I'm using an extension. When you're tightening these down, you want to work back and forth between each nut. So here I'm using a 9/16 deep socket to tighten up that P-clamp. So now I'll tighten down this crossover. This is a 9/16 nut. And you can also use an Allen. Now I'm going to install the provided clamps onto the new heat shields. Just make sure when you're installing these that you have them orientated so they're easily accessible. Again, you can use a 5/16 socket to loosen and tighten these. Here you have a larger clamp that's going to go towards the rear. So after you're done installing these, you can bend them out so they're a little easier to slide over the head pipe. So before I install the heat shields, I'm going to go ahead and clean the headers. Now that I have everything tightened down and cleaned up, I'll install the heat shields. From here, I'll install the clip side heat shield. Now that I have the heat shields installed, I'm going to wipe them down one more time. Now from here, I'll reinstall the floorboard. So the kit does come with these spacers if you're running the stock floorboards. Now that I have everything installed, I'm gonna button it up and we'll take it on a sound check. Alright guys, so I got the headers put on. I'm heading out to Tampa Elite out in Tampa. Gonna have the bike put on the dyno, get it tuned. I'll let you guys hear how it sounds there. And then once we're done with that, I'm gonna take it on the road and let you guys hear how it sounds there. If you guys are wondering what kind of tuner I have, I do have the Screaming Eagle Pro Street Tuner.
Alright guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, smash that bell notification so whenever I put up a new video, you guys get notified. I'll see you on the next one.